Today we are making a casserole from the 1950s called the Johnny Marzetti. Now, despite the fact that in this book it's actually called the Tony Marzetti, everything about this has actually been called a Johnny Marzetti, and this may just be either a misunderstanding or their own particular riff on this classic dish. But it's really simple. We're gonna get through that and actually talk a little bit about the fun history behind this dish too. Now, this particular dish actually got its popularity because it was based in Ohio, around next to the university, and she named it after her brother-in-law, Johnny Marzetti. This, like many other kind of classic dishes, is basically just like a baked pasta casserole of sorts. And obviously, if you look at it in this particular recipe in the book, you know, it's not great sounding. So I'm actually improving upon it by just adding some fresh ingredients like, you know, some carrots, using fresh mushrooms instead of canned mushrooms. And then, you know, just kind of, I'm gonna be making my own kind of cream of mushroom soup essentially, instead of using the can. Now, if you're from the Midwest, you've probably made this or had this or at least heard of it. But I have actually never in my life heard of this. I saw it in this book and I thought that this may have been like the person whose recipe was above it or something. I don't think this would be allowed to have an Italian last name like Marzetti if it didn't actually have a green bell pepper in there as well. Switch this up also. The recipe in the book actually called for a pound of pork, but I actually like a combination of beef and pork together. So I'm gonna be doing that, but live your best life. So right now I've got them in the oven. They're actually gonna be finishing off baking in there and stuff just to kind of melt the cheese and kind of finish cooking that pasta a little bit. But I'm honestly so surprised I've never even heard of this. Again, like I almost thumbed right past this, and this is actually looking like it's gonna be very promising. In so many ways, this actually reminds me of like the Hamburger Helper and things like that that I grew up with, except we just called it like beef stroganoff. All right guys, the Johnny Marzetti casserole from the 1920s. How is this not more popular? This is honestly one of those dishes where it's like, even if I wasn't hungry, I'd probably have about 3 or 4 servings of this and then just regret everything that day and then probably repeat that tomorrow. Ohio, you're famous for the Buckeye, but this is arguably way more delicious. See you guys in the next one.